What's up, you guys? It's Brian coming at you with another... Wait a minute. That's not my introduction. Ahoy toy, welcome to Transfixed, the channel that is powered by raw nerd rage. So today I'm going to be complaining about Transformers. That's the topic of this video. So, these are the 10 things that kind of annoy, bother, or grind my gears about Transformers. Toys, fiction, all that stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Transformers. But, you know, the more you love something, the more passionate you are about it, okay? So I have a few little things I want to get off my chest. So let's get right into it. We'll start with a softball. Number 10 is G1 figures that don't have separate feet. So a lot of the Autobot cars are guilty of this, where the feet would just slide down, slide apart on a pin, but they're just kind of stuck together. Most of them did have separate feet, just no knees or articulation, but people like Warpath here, and I'm sorry to pick on you, Warpath, buddy, but he's just on a big platform, a big block of foot. And, you know, they could have at least cut it in half, I think, or done something. Man, I'd really love to see an updated set of G1 figures that just have joints in them. Just make it like this, but articulated. That'd be amazing. So let's ramp it up a little bit to number 9, which would be, let's see. Well, how about the whole robots in disguise concept? It's really cool. Obviously, it was started off just as the toy. It's just cool that you can have a vehicle that turns into a robot. But I felt like they didn't really make full use of this in the fiction, you know, the cartoons and the comics and whatnot. There really wasn't a big reason for them to be in disguise. I mean, on Cybertron, they all have their alt modes, which I guess just help them get around. I guess driving and flying is better than walking. But there was no disguise on Cybertron for the most part, except for Soundwave being a lamppost. But otherwise, it wasn't really used, right? So I could kind of see it from the Autobots angle, where they want to blend in with humans and, you know, not raise a lot of problems on Earth. But the Decepticons were only interested in power, right, and energy and domination. So I just feel like they were so overpowered. They could just take whatever they want. There's no reason for them to be disguised or subterfuge at all. And I know the IDW comics kind of toyed with that. Megatron had this sort of phased plan of infiltration first and then whatnot. But there was really no reason for it, right? I mean, the Decepticons can just step on people. They can just blow up whatever's in their way. To be fair, I'm not smart enough to come up with the answer for this, but I think with some creative writing, you know, maybe they would have probably had to either power down the Transformers so they weren't so overwhelmingly superior to humans, or make it so that humanity had something the Decepticons wanted that they could not take by force. So they had to rely on subterfuge to get it. Information, perhaps? I don't know. But it kind of bothered me that the disguise thing kind of went out the window. And on that note, too, I remember it confusing me a lot when I was a kid, when they went back to Cybertronian alt modes, right? Because I was used to everything being Earth modes, jets and cars and things like that. And then when they started introducing things like, I think it was the Technobots, was the first ones I saw in the store, where I was just like, what the heck are these things? They're cool, but they weren't anything I'd ever seen before. So, and I didn't get that they were Cybertronian modes. I guess because maybe I wasn't paying attention to the cartoon, or they weren't explaining it very well. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was a dumb kid, but I found it very confusing when they just stopped being in disguise altogether. Let's see. Number 8 would have to be lack of paint. I mean, you don't have to paint the whole figure, but a lot of the figures are missing, you know, key details, right? Especially the worst offenders are the cars, again. So, not so much the G1 stuff, which kind of a lot of stickers, I suppose. But there's so many Autobot cars that don't have painted taillights. Usually they do the headlights, but it's mostly the wheels and the taillights that are missing. So a lot of times you'll see just one big black circle as the wheel and tire. Like, the tire should be black, yes, but the wheel should be some kind of metal color usually. I don't like it when it's not painted, so I'll do it myself with some kind of Sharpie or marker, and then I enjoy it, but, you know, it's easy to make a mistake, and then I regret messing up my figure, and I kind of wonder, like, gee, now, what if I want to sell it one day? I've painted all over it. Same with the taillights. I mean, they mold them in, but you got to go over those with a Sharpie to color some taillights. But I'm happy to say, on a positive note, that that's getting much better with Siege and Earthrise. I was really happy when I picked up Hoist, and it had painted taillights. I was really enjoying that return to that level of quality. Good job, Hasbro. What's next? How about Skywarp? Skywarp's shoulders bother me because Skywarp's shoulders are a bit different. So, the Seekers are obviously accused of being repaints, right? They all kind of have just a palette swap of colors, right? So Starscream has his blue forearms and his biceps and shoulders are gray like the rest of his body. Thundercracker has blue there and black forearms. Skywarp has his purple forearms and black biceps, but in the cartoon he has purple shoulders. He's the only one that has the accent color on his shoulders. He's different from all of the other Seekers. And the toys 90% of the time get this wrong. I think the only one that did it right was the Takara Seeker Aces 3-pack, where they're kind of metallic colored. They did that right. And the Mink toys, which is what I have in my collection because it has purple shoulders. You see what I mean? Black shoulders, even on this little guy. Just, otherwise great, but I will not buy a Skywarp figure again unless it has purple shoulders. I don't know if people aren't paying attention or it's too much money to manufacture something that has that one little difference on it. I don't know. But it bugs me. Okay. How about the Seeker clones? I'm not really sure what you'd call them, but if you're like me, you grew up watching the G1 cartoon, you'd see the Decepticons doing their nefarious schemes and, making Energon cubes, and then all of a sudden, whoa, hold on, back up. Who the fuck are these guys? They have these purple, these lavender-colored Seekers. And this is a knockoff. You can only get it in a knockoff, which also irks me. But, yeah, the thing was that the first series of Transformers had a lot more Autobots than they had Decepticons. So they had to bolster their ranks in the animation with these army of generic, unnamed Seekers that were usually colored magenta, but you'd see all kinds of weird palette swaps in the background. And they never explained who they were, where they came from. They just showed up. They weren't on the Ark or the Nemesis. I don't know where they came from. I guess the Decepticons must have got their space bridge up and running at some point. And I think there were other characters that they did that with as well. There's probably you'll probably see an extra Soundwave in there or something too. But these guys confuse me because I was, as a kid, like, who are these guys? We demand an explanation. I mean, I had my catalog of G1 figures, and I'd look through there and be like, yep, you got Starscream, there's black Starscream, there's blue Starscream. I don't see any lavender Starscreams. Later on, you check the next series. Let's look at the Coneheads. Ramjet, you got Dirge, Thrust, still no lavender Seekers. Check it again. It was kind of mysterious that they just have these characters show up out of nowhere. Oh, yes, Hot Rod. Hot Rod's chest bothers me too, because they never get this right. The G1 Hot Rod figure was actually quite good and very articulated for its time, but the chest was fairly close, I think. But in the animation, he had this nice sort of diamond-shaped chest that was very heroic, like a muscular torso. But none of the toys ever had that. I think, like I said, G1 was sort of there because it had the little flare on the outside, and then MP09, the Masterpiece one, kind of had it wasn't the orange section that it was supposed to be, but it sort of filled it out a little bit. And this Masterpiece came along, which I do love. I love this figure. It's a lot of fun. However, it still had this silly rectangular chest that drives me crazy. Now, I've mistransformed this on purpose to leave these parts out here because it kind of gives the illusion of some sort of shape. But this drives me nuts. I guess actually looking at it now, it's not perfectly rectangular, but it's just so square. And I'm sure it's just because of this Matrix gimmick. And I would much rather have a cartoon accurate or heroic looking figure than have this silly Matrix gimmick. I mean, you could give him a Matrix and he could hold on to it. I don't need to see it go in and out of his chest. A lot of people would argue that Hot Rod should even have the Matrix. So, that's another topic for another day. Alright, intermission time. Alright, so let's see. In the first half, we talked about Skywarp's shoulders. Now we're going to talk about Grimlock's shoulders, because those annoy me too. Grimlock's shoulders are always too high. If you look at the G1 Grimlock figure, his shoulders are in line with his torso, like a person. And so is the animation in the G1 cartoon, which of course is gospel, and everybody knows that. But every figure of Grimlock has these bloody gorilla shoulders. I never modified this one. There's another video on my channel about that. But his shoulders are way up here. Like, so he's supposed to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He's not a gorilla. Another topic. We'll come back to that. But I don't know why they always make him look like some kind of knuckle-dragging caveman or something, or what he's supposed to look like with these shoulders way up here. I just drive me bonkers. He looks fine. The way they draw him in the comic and the cartoon and the G1 toy with... I don't know why they can't... They should be able to do this. They did it in G1, and they could easily make those joints where they're supposed to be. I don't know. They do it stylistically, I'm sure. But why? It looks ridiculous. Okay, now we're in our top 3. We're getting serious here now, okay? Let's talk about Target Masters. I don't care about Target Masters. I just don't, okay? I know some people love them. This might be the time where you unsubscribe, but I just don't get them. It doesn't make any sense to me. I know the Headmasters came along first, and they were kind of cool because you could put the little head guy in the vehicle and drive it, which I thought was kind of cool. So I did buy one of those as a kid. But in the Japanese way they did it was fine. They just had one character. They made a big body, a transtector to join onto to survive the harsh climate of Planet Master. Okay, fine. But it's one character. It's easy. I totally agree with Chris McFeely on that. And but having the 2 characters is too much to do. Nobody cares about the Nebulans or whatever you had them be. Their Nebulans are basically humanoid type species, right? So, and they're very vague on the process of becoming a Headmaster or Target Master. But I'm imagining if you can fold yourself into that shape, you gotta be breaking bones or just becoming a cyborg altogether. I think it's probably kind of grim if you think about it. It was unsettling to me to see something that used to be like a human turn into those shapes. But I guess you're not supposed to think about it too much. But I could give the Headmasters a pass, but the Target Masters don't make any sense because you just fold them over and they're a gun. Why not just have gun hands all the time if you're going to be a gun? They're supposed to be more powerful than the regular weapons that the Transformers wield. Why would an organic life form fold into a powerful weapon? Where does the power come from? Is it the power of love? I don't know. I don't think it makes any sense. I guess if they're little robots, that wouldn't be so bad. Maybe because they're small and compact. If they just made them robots, it would be fine, I think. But I just don't care about them. And I don't want a gun to become a little guy and just stand there or get lost. But it's good for me because as a collector, that means I can pick up G1 figures for really cheap because they're missing their Target Master accessories, and I don't care that they're missing. And Headmasters too, because they have the new Headmasters. And I was able to buy headless G1 figures and just transplant the heads from the Titans Return line on top of them. And that works out great. There's a pro tip. Okay, number 2, brace yourselves, is beast modes. I'm one of those people, because I was weaned on G1, Beast Wars came along and I just didn't really care about it. But I kept hearing good things about it. I kept hearing that it was a well-written show and it was, well-characterized. So I actually went back and I watched every single episode of Beast Wars. And it was fine. I still don't care about it. Probably because I was the wrong age for it. I think if I'd watched it as a kid, maybe I'd like it. I like Rat Trap. But the concept of the Beast mode to me doesn't make sense. Because to me, a beast and a human, like I'm calling Transformers and Headmasters and stuff human because they're basically humanoid. They're 2 arms, 2 legs. They look like us, right? So turning into a beast is just bending over. Right? You get down on all fours. I'm a kitty cat. It's not that different. Maybe because I'm not religious, I don't see a big separation between man and animal. I just think people are animals already. You're not really changing into anything. Like I said, you sprout wings or you go on all fours. It's just not much of a transformation. And the fiction, don't tell me the fiction explains it, because it doesn't. Because the point of the beast mode was because, let me see if I understand this right. When they crash landed on the planet, it was, it's the energon radiation was too much. That was overloading their circuits or whatever. So, energon, which is what their life is powered by. I mean, energon is their food and fuel, right? So, but you could have too much of it, sure. I mean, too much oxygen or water will kill you. Okay. But why does turning into a tiger change that? You're just changing your shape. Now, that's no reason for that to offer you any protection. I mean, for one thing also, the Transformers would be probably bathed in all kinds of radiation unless Cybertron has an atmosphere, which I don't think it does. So you get all the radiation from the sun. But the energon radiation, let's say it's different. Let's say it's harmful if there's too much of a good thing. But why does turning into a tiger or a gorilla protect you? So let's say maybe they have some sort of armored shell around them. Maybe the animal's skin, whatever it is, protects them. Well, that's fine, but why do they have to transform? Why don't they just cover themselves in that material all the time? And most of the time they are in, well, I mean, at least half the time, they're in robot mode on the show anyway, so I don't think they're getting a lot of protection from the radiation. And especially Optimus Prime. I think the only reason Optimus Primal turns into an ape is because of the pun. Okay, Optimus Primal, I'll give you that, it's a pretty good pun. But what advantage does being an ape have over being a humanoid? It's almost the same. It's their closest relative in the evolutionary chain. And if you're a robot version of that, you just look like it anyway. That doesn't give you any advantage. You just have a different face and you look sort of have a furry texture. I don't get it. Anyway, okay. Let's get on to the big one. This is where I risk losing any viewers that I have. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about Rumble and Frenzy. Yeah. Well, it has to be said. Rumble is red. Frenzy is blue. Because that's the way the toys were created, and that's what they were supposed to be in the show, but it's an animation error. Now, if you couldn't tell, I am a G1 purist. I worship at the altar of the G1 cartoon. I mean, I go for everything that's animation accurate. I want everyone to know where I'm coming from, because I want my collection to look as cartoon accurate as possible. That is my collecting goal. However, I cannot support a mistake. Okay? And it's an animation error that caused Rumble to be blue in the TV show. So I can't say that that's correct when it's not. Now, I can say I prefer it. If somebody says to me that I prefer Rumble to be red because that's the cartoon and that's what I like, that's fine. But being intellectually honest with yourself, it's an error. And the G1 cartoon was littered with errors. I mean, there was, we saw Optimus Prime with no faceplate. We saw Autobots wearing Decepticon insignia all the time. But we don't demand that they make toys of Autobots with a Decepticon insignia. We don't insist that Perceptor was a Decepticon in this scene. We don't say that Optimus Prime should have a missing faceplate. And you could argue that those are just one-off errors, whereas the Rumble Frenzy coloration was a consistent error. But I think being wrong all the time doesn't make it more of a case, right? It's just a consistent error that they screwed up in every episode. Because they didn't have the right reference material. I'm sure there's more information about this online that I've forgotten about, but, maybe they got black and white drawing. I don't know. But I think we need to be honest and say that it's an error that some people prefer, but let's call it what it is. Rumble is supposed to be red, and most of the time he is. I mean, I found this chart the other day that shows how often the color was correct and incorrect. But like I said, and if you want to buy the figures and just call them the opposite, that's fine. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But like I said, I don't understand how anyone can argue in favor of an error, how anyone can support a mistake. and say that it's correct just because the mistake was made for a long time. So now, having said that, that's just my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. And you know why everyone's entitled to their opinion? Well, I think it's because opinions amount to diddly squat. So anyone's opinion is as valid as mine. Those are my 10 gripes for now. I've got more, but those are the big ones, I think. And I thought the ones that would be most fun to talk about. Really curious to see what you guys think, though. So leave me some comments and tell me how wrong I am. But yeah, next time, probably just do a regular video. Just trying something different this time. Thanks for watching. Good night.